Can ChatGPT tune your drone? What do you think about Mark Spatz's video? Can ChatGPT tune your drone? No, first of all. No, but okay, I'll bite Mark Spatz. Can ChatGPT tune my drone? No, it can't. It's a large language model. It doesn't know shit about tuning drones, but okay,
so
let's see what the hook is.
Tune and troubleshoot our drone flight performance. Can it help us with PID tuning, filter tuning? Can it give us advice? I've been using ChatGPT more and more. Okay, so with all this, making up a little prompt, basically taking word for word, but expanding on it a little bit because I did have to look up some of the components. It wasn't in his post. He kind of just related to the video, and I had to go do that myself. Recently built a 5-inch quad. It's supposed to be able to carry a large GoPro. Drone is over more than when I put. I can point fly flight back, T-mode, beta flight, as we should look at. Okay, so it sounds like you're struggling with additional weight of the GoPro, leading to issues like oscillations.
Nope. Adding weight effectively reduces the P gain. So when you add weight, it absolutely happens that you tune your quad with a GoPro on, and then when you take the GoPro off, the weight of the GoPro was kind of damping the response. It was slowing down the response of the quad, and so you get P-term oscillations when you remove the GoPro, but if it's oscillating when you add the GoPro, that would not indicate that you should reduce P gains. This advice is absolutely backwards, in my opinion. Increase D gains, maybe. It could be that adding the GoPro, if the GoPro has a flexible mount, that the GoPro mount is creating oscillation and wobble. In that case, reducing P gains could work. But that's a bit of a stretch from what it said. Throttle PID. Betaflight already has very aggressive throttle PID attenuation by default.
Overcompensation.
Hard to imagine it going higher.
There's more adjustments you can make to try to improve.
It says you can start by reducing the throttle P gain. That's not a thing. Throttle P gain doesn't exist.
Flight performance. That's very true. So the PID tuning part says reduce P.
Increase filtering. I mean, maybe.
Gains, especially with on
it's
the
just, but this is always what happens with ChatGPT. Blunty and I did a ChatGPT troubleshooting. There's always some simply wrong or bad or irrelevant advice, like check motor direction and propellers. Not relevant. If it flies, it flies. The motor direction and the props are correct. Adding the GoPro doesn't change that. That's simply wrong. Check that your ESCs are tuned to handle the additional weight. That sentence doesn't even mean anything. How are you going to tune your ESCs to handle the additional weight? The ESCs are just going to do their thing. So there's advice that's simply irrelevant. There's advice that is actually backwards from the truth. And then there's advice that kind of sort of, if you already knew the answer, would seem correct. And if you don't know what you're doing, then there's no way to discern those things, and it's just not very freaking helpful. What was his conclusion?
And information on controls, like what does this thing do, what's that do, what are some general characteristics, but to troubleshoot specific flight performance things, like if you wanted to know more about the sliders, what do they do, what's the effect of increasing sliders, decreasing sliders, what does it mean by raising the filtering or lowering the filtering, what do I have to do to increase my filter?
All right, so no, it can't.
Can I just add to what you were saying?
Yeah.
I'm seeing a big trend of people, new pilots especially, that are asking ChatGPT questions about FPV and using that to guide their information. Like a lot. I had a guy the other day kill a camera because he put VBAT to a 5-volt camera because ChatGPT told him to do it. And I've had many users waste hours on ChatGPT information that is either not real or has, like, they've wiped their drone without backup. All kinds of things happen, right, because of ChatGPT's information. Mm-hmm. What I'd like to point out is that I think I've figured out what's going on here, and or at least part of it. And I believe the reason is because we have a lot of tech people who get into this hobby, who get into FPV after doing some base form of tech, and typically that involves some sort of programming, some base programming. And what they're doing is they're using ChatGPT for programming, where it's not a harm. You get a piece of code, you put the code into the test, you run it, and it breaks or it doesn't break, right? It gives you an error on a line, you spit that back at ChatGPT, you go back and forth. But FPV drones are real-life pieces of equipment and are very complicated versus like code that can be parsed back and forth and tested very quickly. And so what we're seeing is this disconnect by people understanding how good it is for code in some situations if you understand it and know its limitations. But for FPV, it's much more limited because a wrong piece of information wastes hours or breaks a drone.
There's a lot more information fed in about programming than about FPV is the other thing. So the knowledge base is larger. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was just my point. It's like, you really got to understand the disconnect, and that, like ChatGPT is going to hurt you much more if it's wrong in our hobby versus other situations.
It's weird because like sometimes it's so good. I was trying to sort an Excel pivot table a certain way the other day, and my wife said, "I would just ask ChatGPT if it were me," and I was like, okay. And I asked ChatGPT, and it gave me the correct answer instantly, and it did exactly what I wanted. And I had been Googling, and I just could not figure out the right combination of words to Google to get the answer that I wanted. And I was like, okay. But like you said, Blunty, if I ChatGPT that answer, and then I try it and it doesn't work, zero harm done, just a little bit of time wasted. But if I try and answer a question about how to wire up a drone, and then I fry it and I blow my camera, that's different. So, yeah. So you gotta know what the tool is good for and what it's not good for, I guess is what I would say.